Hey guitar fam and friends, what's going on? It's Nate here, and this video lesson is a request I got from a student. It's the solo for Hotel California, and it's going to be a pretty long video, but if you're wanting to get into how to play solos on over chord changes using pentatonic scales and targeting notes and chords and arpeggios and things like that, this is a textbook perfect solo for you to learn. Also, it is very good for getting your bending really strong too, so keep those things in mind as you push forward through this. Of course, we have the jam track for you and the tab available for you on guitarfam.com. Go there, and if you need any extra help with your playing, you can always book a personal private one-on-one lesson with me on the site. The first one is complimentary, so there's no risk. So the best way to attack learning this solo is to learn it just one lick at a time, and most of the licks here can be divided up into one measure long because each chord you're playing over only lasts for a measure. And so as we go through this, I'll show you what either scale shape or arpeggio shape I'm thinking about as I play over these chords. And the progression that we're playing over is B minor, F sharp 7, A major, E major, G major, D major, E minor, and F sharp 7. That's the whole thing. It just repeats over and over again throughout the solo section of the song. And before we actually get into this, some of you may want to know what tone that I'm using, and this actually got pretty close. It's just the HX Stomp, or the Helix native software, and it's a US small tweed with a compressor in front because I'm using single coils. It helps a little bit. I took what would be the EP booster, the model for the EP booster, off for the lesson because I didn't want that much gain for when I was teaching, but it's on during the playing. Then I have two IRs for speaker cabs, phaser, phase 90, then a little tiny bit of delay, and some spring reverb at the end. So, okay, so this first lick, you slide into fret 11 on the G string. Then fret 10 with your index finger on the B string, and then hammer on to 12 on the B string. And as soon as you hammer on, you want to bend up, but you're bending up a whole step and a half. So you're going from this 12th fret, which your third finger's on, and you're shooting for this D note. So that's your target note you're shooting. So, and it's really legato sounding. Then you let this back down, play 10, 12 on the B string, and then 9 on the G string. And we'll take just that little bit so far because I'm thinking about one scale shape with that little snippet in it before it changes. And we're playing over a B minor chord here. So really I'm just thinking B minor pentatonic, and the B minor pentatonic I'm thinking about is the one that starts here out of this D minor shape, right? So fourth string root note D, right there, that's a B. So just going up a B minor. So you can think about that scale shape, or you can think about this chord shape. B minor using a D minor shape. So that's really what I'm trying to visualize. And I'll play that one more time for you. And so really, just notes out of that B minor pentatonic scale shape. And the last little part, the last beat of the first full measure of this solo for this lick over the B minor, I moved down here to this, classic B minor pentatonic scale, 1/6 string root note, and the lick here, the rest of the lick here is so 7/9 on the G string with a hammer on, and then over to the 7th fret of the B string. And then I roll my index finger over to the 7th fret of the G string to get a little quarter step bend. And that's still all over at B minor. So from the beginning, then I shift down to that other B minor scale, B minor pentatonic. And then from there, I play the 8th fret of the D string. And this is where it shifts to an F sharp 7 chord. So my mind kind of thinks, I'm still thinking B minor pentatonic, but for this note I'm landing on, it's the 3rd of an F7 or an F major chord. So I'm really visualizing this F sharp major chord. I'm really visualizing this F chord that uses a C shape, and I'm just getting the 3rd out of that. with my third finger, so it'll be something like. And I end up getting that with my middle finger. From here, we're still thinking about playing it over an F sharp 7 chord, but my mind kind of shifts to thinking about just a B minor pentatonic. The one with the root note located right here on the 4th fret of the G string. So that's a B, and the lowest root note would be with your pinky there on the low E string. But I'm only staying really local. Here's the lick. Okay, so I'm just thinking minor pentatonic, B minor. So play 4, hammer on to 7, pull off back to 4, and then I come to 7 with my pinky on the D string and bend it up a half step, and then kind of let it back down and slide out. And when the note that I'm bending up to is, again, it's that same third of that F sharp 7 chord. So I am thinking B minor pentatonic, but that note right there, I'm getting out of this F sharp 7 chord. And I was surprised, just to say, when I was transcribing this, I went online to some forums and saw a bunch of people asking, oh, what mode is this in? What scale do I use? And I was like, for a song like this, it's not really fitting one key in any way. Like, you can just tell by the way they're playing, and if you've ever seen interviews with either of the guitar players for the Eagles, you know that they kind of think about what chord they're playing over. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm just thinking about what chord am I playing over, what pentatonic goes with it, and what chord tones or what arpeggio am I pulling out. I'm not thinking about modes at all. So those first 2 measures over the B minor and the F sharp 7, bend it up, and then let it back down and slide. From there, we go to an A major chord, and I really am mostly thinking about B minor pentatonic over this one for the lick that he's doing here. And here, I'll play the lick for you, and I'll show you what scale shape I'm thinking of. So just get that lick down by itself. So it's 7, 9 on the G string with a hammer in, then 7 on the B string. Roll your finger over to play 7 on the G string with a quarter step bend, and then play 9, 8, 9 on the D string with these 2 fingers. And you can hammer on pull off the first one, and then pick or hammer on the next one. It doesn't really matter. And the thing here that's happening, I'm just thinking about this B minor pentatonic scale, just standard 6-string root note B minor pentatonic. So, but this note right here on the 8th fret is the major 7th of the scale, which is kind of awkward and funny sounding, to say the least, but it sounds good in this context. And then the next time, you kind of repeat that same lick, do the same thing, but this time we go full pentatonic. We don't have to think about the altered notes or anything. We just go 9, 7, 9, 7 twice. So the first time we play that, you have the major 7 there, right under the B or the leading tone. So it's like B harmonic minor, it really feels like. And then the second time through, you go, same thing, but this time you go just straight blues with a lowered 7th. Pull off, pull off. So that whole lick over the A major will be this. Okay, the next measure is over an E major chord, and I'm still thinking B minor pentatonic, but one little thing changes here. I have a little shift to thinking about this E, just E major shape right here, and I'll show you when that comes in. So the lick is this right here, bend 10 on the B string up a full step. And I use as many fingers as I can to bend that up, and then while that's getting up there, I come over with my pinky and hit 10 with my pinky on the high A string. And I have to leave this bent up because of what comes next. So bend up, 10 of the high E string, hit that note that's bent up on the B string again, 10th fret, and then let it down, and then come back to the 7th fret of the B string, back to the 10th fret of the B string, and then 8th fret of the B string, and you bend that up a half step. So the rhythm for that is, and a little bit faster. So what I'm, like the first part of the lick, I'm just thinking minor pentatonic, but when I get to that last, that 8 bent up a half step, I'm really thinking this E minor shape being bent up. Because that's the 3rd of the chord, I'm bending that up to the 3rd of an E major. So I'm really thinking B minor, and then E major. Because I'm playing over E major that entire time. So that 3rd is just going up to, it would be a G sharp. Okay, on beat 4 of that same measure with the E major. So after this, I come back real quick here with my index finger on the 7th fret of the high E string. And then I roll it over to the 7th fret of the B string, and then back to the 10th fret with my 3rd finger for a full step bend. And this is, while you're playing that note and holding it out through the next measure, you change to a G major chord. And when I think about a G major chord, I just think about this G major pentatonic scale, the one that uses this C shape. Or you can think about it as just an E minor pentatonic scale, relative minor, right? So I have this 10 bent up on the high E string, let it down, hit it again, then bend it up again, pre-bend it, hit it, let it back down, then go to 7. So you have from the beat 4 of the last measure. Okay, and then from there you have 10 on the B string, full step bend with all 3 fingers, and leave that bent up again, then 10 of the high E string, come back to 10 of the B string, hit it, let it down, and then hit 8 of the B string there. And I really am thinking about, because that's a G note, so that's kind of my target point, or resting spot for that lick. So let me start one beat before this measure of G major so you can get a context for it. Okay, and then you have this little 2 ghost notes on 4E and the and of 4, and you just go, and then by the next measure you're on a D major. So when I think about this D major, I'm thinking about this G shape. That's a D major, and it's just a D major pentatonic. And it's really, the relative minor is B minor, so we're still in the key of B minor pretty much for this whole thing. So I'm still really just thinking B minor pentatonic, even though my root note is a D now instead of a B, right? So the lick on the D major is gonna be 9th fret of the G string, full step bend, and then come, you can either hybrid pick it or just, so bend it up, and then 10th fret of the high E string. Then you do another little ghost note, muted, and leave, you have to leave this bent up and then come back, hit it again, let it down, 7th fret, then another little ghost note, and then I like to play 7 again, slide down to 6, and then hit 7 again. And just like that. And all I'm doing is, it's outside of the pentatonic scale, but all it is a leading tone for the key of a D major. So C sharp, or 1, 7, 1, right? So that lick over the D. One more time. Okay, next chord is an E minor, so I'm really just thinking about this E minor pentatonic scale. 5th string root note, A minor shape, right? And it goes 7, 9 on the G string with a hammer on, and then I go to 7 on the B string and bend it up a half step. So and then hit 7 again, but don't have it bent up, and then bend it up and let it down. Then go back to 9, pull off to 7, back to 9. Then you have 3 bends on the 7th fret of the B string. Quarter step, oh sorry, half step bend, half, half, and the third one you bend up and let down, and then go back to 9, 7 with a pull off. So that phrase is a little bit weird, and there's some accents, some staccato marks I put in here too that really give this lick its style, and this is throughout the whole thing, so watch out for those little staccato dots above the tab or the note. So you're choking that note on the 7th fret instead of going. You want to choke it. So that whole lick over that E minor, and just, again, I'm just thinking, and all I'm doing is putting this extra note in here, bending up to what would be the minor third of that E minor pentatonic scale. But the feel for this one will be. Okay, the next measure is just an F sharp 7, and I just go straight B minor pentatonic blues for this one. This is a classic lick that you'll hear licks like this in a lot of spots, but it's just 9th fret G string, full step bend, and then 7, 10 on the B string, and then back to the 9th fret of the G string, another full step bend, and then 7 of the B, 7 of the high E string, and then back to 9 of the G string, bend it up and let it down a full step. Then go to 7 on the G string, and then a full step bend on 9 with some vibrato to finish out this first rotation through the chord progression. So let me play that first chunk for you. All right, this is where the chord progression starts over, and Joe Walsh takes a rotation through it, and he kind of mimics what Glenn Frey does in the last measure, but he's playing over a B minor chord this time, and he really, it's just a slightly different, he does the same kind of lick. He goes with this B minor pentatonic scale. All he does is he goes 9, full step bend on the G string with his 3rd finger, 7, 10 on the B string, same thing, 9, full step bend, 7 on the B, 7 on the high E string, and then he has this recurring little lick here that he does twice, and again full step bend on the 9th fret, and then 7th fret of the high E and B strings at the same time, so you have to do a little bar there. Then he does that again. And for this stuff, for this whole lick, I just do alternate picking. Okay, and then to finish off this measure, he goes full step bend on 9, let it down, 7th fret, and then back to the 9th fret, back to 7. So. And for the next measure over an F sharp 7 chord, all he's doing is playing, bending up to the root note, to the F sharp. And what he does is he bends up, whole step, puts some vibrato on it, and then slides up the note just for some style and some flair. Okay, next lick is over an A major chord, and all he's doing is taking that same F sharp that he bent up to and actually going up to it. So 11th fret of the G string, and he's bending up a step and a half to reach an A. That A right there on the 14th fret, because it's playing over an A chord, right? So he's drawing you into that A chord. And then he lets it back down, and it goes 9, 11 on the G string, and then he goes just back to full B minor pentatonic. So 7 of the G string with a quarter step bend to 9 of the D string, which is, you know, the root note to the B minor pentatonic scale. And then after that, he reaches up here on the 10th fret with his third, well, with my third finger, whatever finger you want, a 10th fret, full step bend on the B string, and then reaches over to 7 of the high A string, then back to 10 on the B string, back to 7, and we'll I'll play that in time for you before we get into the next part. And this next part's a little tricky, so we'll go from, let's just go from where he started this solo so you can get a context for how it flows in the rhythm. So. Then he goes. From there, you're going to slide from 10 to 12 with your pinky or third finger, and then 10 on the high E string. And I'm just thinking B minor pentatonic here, really, until I get to this part. Back to 10, up to 12, 11, 10, 9. And what I'm doing, I'm playing over an E major chord in this measure. So really I'm targeting, everything's running toward this note right here, which is a G sharp. It's the third of an E major chord. So I'm really seeing this, or this E major chord, whichever one you want to think about, this G sharp note. And that chromatic walk down is going from the 5th of the chord, a B, to an E. So I really am thinking just this G major shape that's an E chord. So I could have something to latch onto and see. So let me play the measure before so you can get an idea for this. And this is one of the trickier ones for me. So here you go. Okay, next we move to a G major chord. And for this first part of it, all I'm doing is thinking E minor pentatonic shape, right? Or G major pentatonic shape, whatever way you want to think about it with this G major chord that uses G major shape, at least for the first part of it. So it starts off with a bend on, really on the E of 4 of the last measure to go into this G. So 14th fret of the G string with your third finger, full step bend. And this sticks to just notes in the minor pentatonic, the E minor pentatonic. 12 of the B string, 15 of the B string with a little quarter step bend. 12 of the high E string, and then I come here with my third finger. This is very important. Third finger on the 15th fret of the B string. So. Okay, and I'm still thinking G major pentatonic, but I make a shift from thinking about this shape to thinking the next one up, the one that's based on this E shape, right? So I make a shift from thinking about that to trying to visualize the next G major chord up. So right here is where I have to shift up to that next position from 15 to 17, and as soon as I do it, I have to do a full step bend, and my pinky comes up and grabs the 17th fret of the high E string while this is still bent up because I need to come back to it, hit it again and let it back down. 15, 17, back to 15. So I'll play that much for you real quick. Take this one really slow. It was pretty tricky to get down. So. Okay, and this is where it moves to a D major chord. So I'm thinking D major pentatonic using a C shape. And all the graphics are here on the page for it. And I'm already on the 17th fret from that last lick I did over the G. So I take that same 17th fret, bend it up a full step, then. And what I'm really doing here is I'm going 17, and then from there, 15, 16, 17. And all that is if I'm thinking about this G major pentatonic, all it is 4, flat 5, 5. So I'm really getting into kind of a D blues scale there too, if you want to think about it that way. So as soon as you hit that 17th fret on the high E string, you want to hit it again, but this time bend it. And when I bend it, my B string is already bent too. So I just hit it and let it back down, and then play 15 to kind of resolve that line. So, and that's probably one of the trickiest parts. You want to slow that way down. Then you have 17, a really short staccato note on 17, and then 17, 15, another really short 30-second notes with a pull off. So let me just play that whole thing up to this point for you from the Joe Walsh part. From there we go to an E minor chord, and I'm just thinking about this G major or E minor pentatonic scale shape. If you're thinking about an E minor, this is the chord, the D minor shape, you know? And it's just 17 bent up a whole step on the B string. And then come over, grab 17 with your pinky on the high A string, hit it again, leave, and this needs to be left bent up from the last one, hit it again, and just let it down a quarter step, and then come back up to a full step and bend it. So it's tricky to keep that pitch right there. So put some vibrato on it, and then hit it again, bent up, 17. Let it down, 15. And then the next measure is almost the same thing. It's just over F sharp 7 chord. So my mind really thinks more towards an F minor pentatonic scale here, but the lick is almost the same, so you don't even need to think about that. You already have it done. So again, the one measure that starts on 17, actually just back up to here's the measure over the E minor. Then do this almost the exact same thing again. So 17 bent up, 17 on the high A string, again. It's back to 17 that's already bent up and you're holding. Let it down a quarter step, bend, back up with some vibrato. And the challenging thing here is, I just messed that up, so it's to not let the notes ring out of each other. So as soon as you hit this, your thumb needs to come and mute that B string. And from there, this is where the next rotation of solo takes over. Let me play that whole thing for you all the way through, and then we'll pick up on the next Glenn solo. All right, from there, the solos kind of overlap a little bit because they're switching back to another round of the progression, and Glenn's taking over the solo again. And so I go to his guitar here to because it makes more sense going into that B minor. So 14 of the B string, just a half step bend, let it back down, then 12 and choke that note. So, and then the next measure 17, same note, 14, bent up a half step. Okay, and then you go 13, 10, So 13 has a full step bend on the B string. Then 10 is just on the high E string with your index finger, and do that twice. So you have from there, hit 11 and slide out and down. And then all the way to the 4th fret, and that's on the G string. And I just play those 2 notes. So that whole phrase. And that note that you're holding down there that you're targeting, it's just an A sharp, it's the 3rd of an F sharp major chord, or F sharp 7 chord. So that makes sense to be thinking about that shape over that. I'm just thinking F sharp. And from there, you're playing over an A major chord, and I'm really just thinking B minor pentatonic over here. I'm going up to the 12th fret of the high E string, bending it up a full step, 3rd finger. And that's the lick, but what you do is you play the whole step bend on 12, and then you play that note 9 more times, slowly letting the bend down as you do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you go 12, 10, pull off, 12 of the B string, roll your 3rd finger over back to 12 of the high E string, and then 10 of the E string with a 1/4 step bend. And that's the end of that measure, and you land the target note that you kind of resolve on is this B note on the 12th fret of the B string, and that's the 5th of the E major chord, which is what the next measure is playing over. But let me play that entire last lick for you over the A major. From there, we landed on that 5th of the E major, but I really kind of revert back to thinking about just a B minor pentatonic here, because I hit 10 of the B string, 11 of the G string, and I'm thinking about this kind of B minor pentatonic from the D string right there, from the 9th fret of the D string. That's kind of my home base for that part of the lick. Then I make a shift up here to the 12th fret of the D string, play that, hit 14 on the D string, and slide up to the 16th fret, then over to the 14th fret of the G string, and then do a little slide. You don't have to. But anyway, essentially, I essentially am thinking about this B minor pentatonic A shape when I do that, when I make that shift up. So let me play the beginning from this 3rd round of soloing for you. Okay, this is where it comes in with that kind of more scale sequence type of run, this one. Okay, so it's a little bit different kind of playing that's been going on before, but I'm just thinking, I'm thinking D major, a D major scale. You can think of it as a B minor scale or D major, whichever you want. But it's with the one that goes along with this chord shape. So that makes it a little bit easier to visualize. So starting back on the 8th note before, in the previous measure, you just have a 14th fret, bent up a whole step on the G string, and then this is where we end up playing over a G major chord. And I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just thinking I memorized this sequence with the D major scale, right? So 15 on the B string, pinky, 14 on the G string with your 3rd finger, roll your 3rd finger over to 14 of the B string, 12th fret of the G string with your index finger, roll that over to the 12th fret of the B string, and then I shift down with my index finger, 11 on the G, 14 with my pinky or 3rd finger, whichever one you want, on the G, and then roll my 3rd finger over to 14 of the D, then 12 of the G with my middle finger. And then this middle finger kind of rolls over and grabs 12 of the A, rolls back over 12 of the D, back to 12 of the A, slides down to 10, index finger grabs 9 of the A, back to 10 with my middle finger, and then I slide up to 12. So that one, I really have to slow that one down because it can be kind of a finger twister for that one. So. And the next measure goes to the 12th fret of the D string. And I like to grab that with my index finger. This we're playing over D major, and we just landed on a D note, so that's great to target that. But then, and I'm thinking this D major chord shape right here, since we're playing over a D, and I reach up with my third finger and cut that note short, 14th fret of a high E string, so that's an F sharp, third of the D major chord, and then come back to the 12th fret of that high E string, and then 15th fret of the B string, which is another D. So we're really outlining that D major chord. And then I come back with my middle finger on the 12th fret of the G string and bend that up a whole step and let it back down. And all I'm doing is bending. This is the 4th, bent up to the 5th, and then I end up on the 3rd. And so I'm still thinking this D, really hardcore. So let me play that over the D for you. Okay, so let me play that from the sequencing part over the G major and measure 21 through measure 22, the D major. So. So the end of the measure with D major just hits that 11th fret again, and then I slide up to the 12th fret, and it goes over E minor, which is great because that's a G, and that's the 3rd of an E minor. Hit it again, and then 14, and then 16. And that gets you to the E minor measure, so. And then from there you have an F sharp major. So 15 with my 3rd finger on that G string, which is just the 3rd of the chord. That's great. So I'm thinking about this F sharp major using the E shape. And then I come over to 14, 15, 17 on the B string to finish off that little lick. And I just memorized those frets. I didn't think about any particular chord or scale shape when I did those last 3 notes. Okay, so I'll play the entire 3rd solo section for you now so you can see it all stitched together. Okay, now we get into the arpeggiated part, and there are a couple ways you can play this. You can play with hammer-ons and pull-offs, or you can do it 1 note per string. It kind of mixes it up from what I could tell. So it starts off on a B minor, and you can play it like that, but I prefer to play it this way. I'm still thinking this B minor chord shape, but I'm just going 19, 15 with a pull-off on the B string, and then 16 on the G string with my middle finger. So pinky, pull off to index finger, middle finger on the G string on 16. Do that 5 times. And the last time you do it, you just do an 8th note on that 16th note. Hold it out a little bit longer. From there, you go to an F sharp 7 chord, and all I'm doing is thinking this F sharp 7 that uses the E shape, right? The 7th of this chord is up here with your pinky on the 17th fret, so I play that. 14th fret, which is the 5th of the chord, and then the 3rd of the chord, here on the 15th fret of the G string. So 17, 14, pull off on the B string, 15 on the G string. And you do that 3 times. Actually, on the third time, you don't hit the fret 15 on the G string. You slide up to 18 on the high E string, and that's the end of that phrase. So those first two measures. And I'm generally sliding in from 2 frets below. It's not really that specific, but I do generally slide it from 2 frets below and let it ring out for the rest of that measure. Okay, next chord is an A major chord, and all I'm thinking is this A major, using the A major shape, but I'm making this bar like I would, this part of the A chord, but my pinky is grabbing here on the 17th fret of the B string that I pull off to the 14th fret, but my index finger is barring both of those notes because I'm gonna need both of them. So 17, 14, and then 14 of the G string, and you do that again 5 times. And on the fifth time, you just let that 14th ring out again on 8th note instead of a 32nd note. And the thing here is you have to roll your fingers so the notes don't bleed out over each other. Right, so just be careful of that. Take your time. Work on that if you need to. But that's over the A major chord. And then the next one is just over an E, an E7 shape. So I'm just thinking, it's kind of the same pattern as we did earlier, as the 7th right there on the 15th fret of the B, 5th on the 12, so pick, pull to 12, and then 13 of the G string is the 3rd of an E dominant 7 chord. So do that 3 times. On the 3rd time, don't go to the 13th fret, just slide up to the 16th fret from 2 frets or so below. So that second phrase will be from there we're going to a G major chord, so I just think about my open G major as I'm playing these notes, and I'm just playing 15, pulling off the 12 of the B string. Then my finger again rotates over to 12 of the G string. So I'm playing the 5th of the chord, the 3rd of the chord, and then the root. Same pattern as far as how many times you play. Play 5 times, and then when you end up on 12, let it ring out for an 8th note. From there we go to a D major chord, and we're gonna switch gears a little bit here. We're gonna go 1 note per string for the D chord. And I'm just thinking about the D chord that uses the E major shape. Just thinking about those top 3 notes. 10th fret of the high E, roll my index finger, 10th fret to the B string, 11th fret of the G string. So those are the notes I'm thinking about over the D. Do it 3 times, but on the 3rd time, don't go to the G string. Just slide up to the 14th fret from the 12th fret or so. Okay, and let me play that last phrase, so G to D for you. Okay, and the last one is an E minor to an F sharp 7. So we're gonna come down to this E minor, A minor shape, and we're just gonna use the top 3 notes of that E minor chord. Same idea, so, and we get 1 note per string here as well, but we don't have to roll our fingers, that's great. 7th fret of the high E, 8th fret of the B, 9th fret of the G, and just play that again 5 times. And the 5th time, let it ring out an 8th note instead. And when I do this, I'm doing alternate picking when I have 1 note per string here on these. And when you have 3 notes you're just doing alternate picking, which is 2 motions, so it ends up alternating, flipping back and forth, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. I don't think Glenn, I think he uses some other combination, but I find alternate picking on here to be just the most consistent and the most predictable. So do it whatever way you like. You could even hybrid pick that. That's probably the safest way to do it, actually. So that's over the E minor, and then you have an F sharp 7, or just an F sharp major. I'm just sliding up You're just thinking about this F sharp major chord and playing 9th fret of the high E string with my first finger, then my third finger gets the 11th fret of the B and rolls over to the 11th fret of the G. 3 times, again, third time don't go to the G chord, just slide up from the 12 to the 14th fret. And let me play that last little bit, the E minor over the F sharp 7 or the F sharp major. Okay, so let me play that whole last bit for you with the arpeggiated stuff. So. All right, that's it for this one. If you have any other requests for popular solo videos, let me know in the comments below. And if you need any help with your playing, head over to guitarfam.com and schedule a personal private one-on-one video lesson with me. The first one is complimentary, so there's no risk. And you can even go through the first module of all of our premium courses too there when you create your complimentary account. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video too. It really helps. I'll see you later.